How's everybody doing today? Welcome to a Saturday edition of the Solution Breakdown. My name's Mark Baker. I'm joined here with Mitch Kofsky. How are you, Mitch?
I'm doing good, man. Just watched Michigan just kick Central Michigan's ass 63-3. So I'm feeling pretty good.
Yep. Yeah, that's a big confidence booster from compared to what happened the week prior. That's
Yep.
a good win to get back on track.
Mhm.
I also will say, I mean, I didn't think to bring the audio, but how about them Las Vegas Raiders? That was your pick of the week
Yep.
against New England, man. That was a good pick. Um, and we'll get to that, and we'll get to that later in the show. I first wanted to get a little bit of a reaction here. Commanders 18, Packers 27. That was a tough matchup for Washington that early in the season, going on the road on a Thursday night to a Green Bay team who that Green Bay team the year prior, like we had said in the previous show, they were 1-5 in division. Their issue was not they were 10-1 against everyone else. So and they were a playoff team. And I don't know how often that has ever happened where a team goes 1-5 in division and still makes the playoffs. Their problem isn't necessarily playing everybody else. It's their own division. So coming off a win against the Detroit team, yes, they've lost to both coordinators, but they're going in pretty high. So that was going to be a tough game for Washington. We'll get into it, but there wasn't anything for me that was, whoa, there's a big issue here. That was a tough matchup for Washington. Mitch, I want to hear your thoughts.
So first off, going into the game, I was like, okay, Packers, I already knew the Packers were going to win it because there's this and Michael Parsons, the whole team as a whole, perfect, right?
Yeah.
But the Commanders lost a key piece after this game, and that was Austin Ekeler, who's now out for the season. Austin Ekeler is now out for the season with a torn Achilles. So that's a big loss right there. And Jaden Daniels got actually an MRI on his knee, too.
Yeah.
So it's just like the Commanders are going to go through hurdles this season. They're not going to be exactly like they were last year. No. They're older, more injury prone. They're like the Sixers. But, dude, it's just like I'm happy that the Packers won. I'm happy that they won. Jordan Love did his thing. They also lost Reed as well. He got injured, but great game all around from Green Bay.
Now, do you think Washington? I mean, this early on, right? It was a tough game. Tough. I mean, they also lost. On an extra point. What was it? Demetrius Wise came over from New England. Won a Super Bowl in New England. Was a good player for them. He came to Washington, and he had a bad leg injury as well. That's something to worry about, Mitch. I mean, do you see Washington being a playoff team? I mean, Dallas, how they looked against the Eagles, and you gotta probably understand that, like, if Dallas plays a Giants team where Russell Wilson's getting the start again, the Giants are when do we start Jackson Dart? That's probably a win for Dallas. I mean, you see Washington. I mean, it's early. But would you be surprised if they went 7-10? I mean, it's a bit of an overreaction. I mean, it's one game on a Thursday night, but would you be surprised if they went 7-10, 8-9?
I would not be surprised. I'm looking at the schedule right now on my phone. Actually, they got the Raiders next, then the Falcons, then the Chargers. Your Chargers are looking pretty good right now.
Right.
The Bears, then the Cowboys, the Chiefs. We're going to talk about the Chiefs in a minute. Then you got Seattle, Lions, Dolphins, who are banged up right now, Broncos, who are very good, Vikings, Giants, Eagles, Cowboys, Commanders. So they got a pretty tough schedule. So I would not be surprised if they actually go 7-10 or 8-10 around there.
Yeah.
Because right now, without Eckler, they got their rookie running back Merritt, they got Zach Ertz, and they got Deebo Samuel. So they're looking pretty depleted right now. So not be shocked.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Washington is the on average they are the oldest team in the NFL, and I saw an interesting statistic that Tucker Kraft, a tight end for the Packers, he had more yards. I think it was early in the third quarter. He had more yards than the entire Commanders offense combined. What we saw was a fast Packers defense. That, I mean, last year we were used to Jaden Daniels making everyone look foolish. It seemed like he had that Lamar Jackson element, and not to say that he's in a slump, but that Packers defense made the Washington offense look slow. There were times where their first round pick at tackle, I mean, they were lining Micah Parsons up on him all night, and we'll get to another tackle situation with Kansas City, but that seemed like a mismatch last night. You could just tell the second quarter that this isn't really going to go well. This was not a good matchup for the Commanders. But long term, this is the risk of having an older roster. Is that you have guys that have wear and tear. Austin Eckler, who, I mean, that's the thing. You send Brian Robinson over to the 49ers. I mean, that's you're now looking for what, like a second, third round pick to really carry the weight of the offense. That is a lot. And also you have a certain degree of an offense under Cliff Kingsbury, is that they are very, they had one of those fourth downs, which, like, before Eckler got hurt, I mean, they, a shotgun run on 4th and 1. I mean, they're very, we are going to do it our way type of thing. And that's the problem. You put together, I mean, we'll talk about Kansas City in a minute, but this is probably why Cliff Kingsbury is not a head coach. It's because he doesn't really pivot. You're gonna need to pivot, or this season is not gonna end well. It's not gonna end well if you're just sticking to really what you know. Because I saw something, I was like, they don't run like they don't run under center. Well, I mean, if half your roster is depleted, I mean, it's tough to run that like spread offense, because remember, Mitch, Deebo Samuel is a very dynamic player, but his issue with San Francisco, and this is the issue that occurred in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, not this past one, but the one previous, that he couldn't get open one-on-one. He couldn't get separation. That's a problem, because you see the timing with Terry McLaurin, it's off. It is off, because he had the entire training camp he wasn't with the team. So you like, I saw a little bit that they were not in sync at times.
Now, here's the thing with Deebo, right? His career has been going downhill after the last couple of seasons due to injuries and stuff like that. I don't see him as a viable threat. I don't. I just see someone who can just get open and use his legs. That's it. I don't see him as like a target that you got to cover. I think he's a little overrated right now, but that's my personal opinion. And I don't know if you saw him, but he gained a lot of weight. He did gain a lot of weight. So with that, I'm just like, it is what it is, and they gave him a boatload of money too. There's Josh Harris for you, and the Sixers fans know that. But yeah, yeah, I'm not a big supporter of Debo. I'm not a fan.
Yeah, and this is going to be a bit of a concern for Washington
Yeah,
going forward. Now, in terms of the Packers,
yeah,
man, I mean, I'm watching that game and I'm thinking to myself, this is exactly that Micah Parsons deal was exactly what they need because they already had Rashawn Gary on the other end. You put Rashawn Gary on one end and you put Micah Parsons on the other. That's a dangerous pass rush. They
yeah,
are a very fast on defense, and you could tell in this matchup they overwhelmed Washington at times.
mm,
And
yep,
you know, it's hard to blame. It's hard to blame the kicker when he's 1 for 3 on 50 plus yards plus field goals. They really couldn't move the ball. I mean, they got stifled.
yeah,
Uh, that's a dangerous defense. Now, a team in their own division last year had this level of they could be a possible Super Bowl. And then we're looking at them in December and January and like they're completely depleted. So all this is about health. Remember, the Eagles last year they were 2-2 and we were like everyone's like let's fire the coach. And they rattled off 14 out of 15 or 16 out of 17 or something, and they went and won it all. It's really hard to tell at week 2 to be like the Packers are a Super Bowl winning team because who knows? You know if you know a Aiden Hutchinson comes off the edge and blindsides Jordan Love and breaks his collarbone. It's a different season. So you never really know. But right now, it looks like it works. You could really see that not only do the Packers draft well and they develop players well, but they also have those key star pieces around them, which was always their issue. They could develop talent well, but you know what was the difference with the Eagles last year? Obviously, it was Saquon Barkley. Sometimes you just need that difference maker.
yeah.
It makes all the difference. Now, am I ready to call them the best team in the league? I'm not necessarily sure. You're playing both of these teams at home. There is definitely concerns with Detroit losing their coordinators. There's definitely concerns with Washington being an older roster. You know, like certain they're very noisy during the off season. Like there was definitely a lot playing for Washington and Detroit, but right now Green Bay really sets itself apart from the rest of the NFC early on. We'll see
Yeah.
going forward.
So there's a rumor going around that the Super Bowl is going to be the Green Bay Packers and the Buffalo Bills. Now, if that happens, I'm like, the fan bases are both crazy. I'm here for it. Let's rock. But it's going to take a lot for Green Bay. Green Bay's the number 2 in the NFC, behind the Eagles, of course. So you got to get through us there. But Michael Parsons is the tone setter. He does everything that he needs to do. But here's the best part. After the game, right, he was out there with the guys, and the fans were saying, "Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Jerry." And
Yeah.
Michael Parsons was just like that. He's finally out of there. And Mark, I can root for them again. I can root for Michael Parsons now. I can actually do that. He's not a Cowboy.
Yeah.
That's
I
that's the
mean,
best part.
you know what? And for the Cowboys, it was the right move. I'm watching that game thinking, this is good. This is good for Green Bay and also good for Dallas. Dallas is it's good for Dallas because it challenges their business model of paying you know very decent players over the market value and then being stuck when you really can't develop or keep certain players and you
Yeah,
put all the emphasis on one guy. You know, whether or not Dak honestly is like a lot of what we don't consider Dak to be a top quarterback, partially is playoff performances and also just roster construction, which is not his fault. The way Dallas has done business has been unbelievably flawed. I mean, if you put Dak on Green Bay, I mean, they're just as good at the very least, if not better. Which is my point, which is that ultimately it's like Green Bay's perfect for Micah Parsons. He doesn't really have to carry the weight of an entire defense. And I heard something, from from Bill Belichick said something on this random show. It's like, football is kind of like, it's kind of the art of war. It's kind of like we want to go and we want to attack your weaknesses, and we want to put ourselves in a position where you don't really see and you can't attack our weaknesses. Well, the problem with Micah Parsons is that he struggled in the run defense. Well, like now he's in a system where, like, buddy, just go tee off. Like that's all he has to do. He goes and tees off, where he's in a defense where his weaknesses are not going to be constantly exposed. That's the thing in Dallas. They pay these guys over market value, and a guy like Dak, he probably needs a better supporting cast. But they pay him as if, he's going to be Mahomes or Josh Allen. But he's not that. He's not, and I don't think he's relatively close to that. Then he needs a good roster. And the way Dallas has done business is pay these B+ guys and expect them to have A+ performances. So this was, in a way, thank you, Jerry Jones. Thank you. Thank you, Green Bay Packers. Thank you. But if you're a Cowboys fan, you're looking at this like, I'm glad he's doing well, because ultimately letting him go hopefully will challenge our business. I mean, as long as Jerry Jones is alive, I don't know if that's really going to happen, but it is a start to be like, hey, we need to be able to develop, have solid talent on the interior. We need to be able to, have better support some of our high-end talent. And I will say, over time, it's easy to want to be like, wow, the Cowboys were really dumb letting this guy go. But it's, everything comes down to context. And I think down the road, we might look at it like Green Bay got what they want, which is a guy that helps them on the defensive side, helps them become a Super Bowl contending defense. And also Dallas got what they want, which is key players, a couple of draft picks. But obviously we don't look at that right now. But that's okay.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. But here's the thing with the Cowboys, and then we'll move on to the next thing. Jerry Jones is going to be there forever, dude. If it's not him, it's going to be his son. The Cowboys are going to be done for the next decade plus. Let's keep it a buck. They need new owners. They're not going to do it. It's a family business. It's going to keep on going throughout the years, throughout the centuries. They're basically done.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say. That's all I got to say on that.
Yeah. Another team that we want to get into.
Yeah.
Last Friday night, the third play of the game, Xavier Worthy runs into Travis Kelce. He was out for the rest of the game. You could tell that affected Kansas City. But that Chargers defense really got after Mahomes. And again, this is another concern, another of the same concern for the Chiefs, which is tackle. And I don't know. I don't know the reason why Jawan Taylor keeps jumping. All the false starts. I'm not sure the reason for that. But it gets to a point of like now Mahomes is kind of in the reality of the rest of the NFL. I mean, now he's starting to see a little bit of the reality that Joe Burrow has faced. Even at times Josh Allen has faced. and at times what at points Lamar has faced. Because when Mahomes came in, I mean, it was a great setup. I mean, you had the fastest wide receiver in the NFL, not even yet in his prime, just about entering his prime, and you also had one of the best tight ends in football, Travis Kelce, who obviously has lost a step. Clearly has lost a step, but he came in with arguably one of the best offensive minds in football. Taking the reins off of a guy of Alex Smith, who is arguably one of the best, the idea of a game manager is a very derogative quarterback term. But, I mean, you want to put the ball in someone's hands that you can trust. And Alex Smith was definitely that guy. They had a good organizational structure when Mahomes came in. Brett Veach is obviously one of the best GMs in football. The Hunt family, it's very clear that that's not a weird ownership. But now in terms of what it looks like, it's a little different. You lose a couple of guys. Now, some of that, Tyreek Hill, it got a little bit weird. It made sense to let go of that situation. And listen, Mahomes played well on Friday night. Oh, that wasn't the issue on Friday night. He played well. What was his name? Amarian Hampton. With about a minute left, they're 3rd and 14. They're just trying to put the ball in a better situation. He runs out of bounds, which stops the clock and gives Kansas City about 50 seconds to do something on offense. And Mahomes made him pay. Mahomes has that type of, it doesn't matter who he's throwing the ball. It doesn't matter. He's throwing to Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, which, every time I see that guy's name, I'm like, he's still around. He's thrown to a Noah Gray. Pacheco can be very hit or miss. It doesn't matter the weapons he has around him. The issue is at the tackle spot.
Yep.
That is the big issue for them. If Jawaan Taylor continues to be an issue, remember they got blown out in two Super Bowls because of their tackle situation. Both times, their right and left tackles were at issue against Tampa and against the Eagles. That was both the issue. I mean, this is the reality of the NFL. Is that you're trying to scrap and claw to find the right talent. Not every team's going to just have a Trent Williams or a Lane Johnson or an Orlando Pace. Because when you pay the quarterback top dollar, you better. There aren't a whole lot of left tackles that just sit out there in free agency. There's only a few guys that are 330 pounds, 6'7", and have good feet. There's not many people in the world that can do that. You're not finding that on the street.
Right.
And usually when you do, in a couple of years, you got to pay them good dollars, which means that you probably can't afford that corner, or you probably can't afford that D end or that defensive tackle. Like that's the reality of the NFL. So going into this matchup, I don't know. I think that they'll be okay, but they're a home dog against the Eagles. Mitch, do you think this is a must win for Kansas City?
Do I think this is a must win for Kansas City? I'm going to go no. And the reason I'm going to go no is just Patrick Mahomes. And here's another thing. I don't think you know about this, dude. Did you know Mahomes never started out 0-2 in his career. He never started out 0-2. So, with that being said, what kind of Mahomes are we going to get if the Eagles beat the Chiefs come tomorrow? The day we're recording this on Saturday. Come tomorrow. And if that happens, I'm like, oh, we've awoken the beast or whatever, Travis Kelce or Travis Swift, rather. I'm just saying, like, it's Mahomes. You can't count out Mahomes, in my opinion. Has he taken a step back due to the wide receivers being out? Yes. Has the defense taken a step back? Yes. They still have Chris Jones. They still have all these other pieces. They can still get some things done, but they're no longer in a spot compared to like the Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens, and stuff like that. They're not in that conversation anymore. I still got them winning the division, though. I still got them winning the division over Broncos, Chargers, etc. So I'm like, they're going to lose a couple of games, but it's still not a must win. I think they're fine where they at. I think they're fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think an 0-2 spot is not ideal. But the reality is Denver did not look good on Sunday against a Tennessee team that, I mean, a little bit more scrappy. It would not surprise me. I mean, Cincinnati has dealt with this previously, where they've gone 0-2. They've had rough starts, and they're still in the playoff hunt late in the year. But the offensive line is a massive concern. It is a massive concern. The only thing that is going for Kansas City down the road, if they can hang in there, they are going to get Rashee Rice back, which is big for them. The Xavier Worthy injury was not as bad. And listen, Mahomes in that second half, the defense got carved up, but he kept them in that game to an extent. I mean, this is classic. This is classic Mahomes. This is why Mahomes's ability is when Amarian Hampton runs out of bounds late in that first half. You're like, that's a big deal.
Yep.
Maybe if you're playing, if I don't know, if you're playing Russell Wilson, and you're up against Russell Wilson, your running back, runs out of bounds and makes a situational error like that, you might look at it like, hey buddy, you know what I mean? Like, all you gotta you slide in that situation, or cut it back inside so you're tackled in bounds.
Yeah.
But with a guy like Mahomes, the reality is that no, like, that's, you pretty much gave him 3 points. That's like that's a 3-point swing right there. So that's still the effect that Mahomes had. I don't know if this is a must win, because I don't, after what we saw week 1 against Dallas, the Eagles defense has a lot of questions to ask. They're not that same defense. I think it was very clearly shown after that week 1 that they're not that same defense. Now, what they'll become is we don't really know. Jalen Carter's going to be back, which that's going to definitely impacts Kansas City's ability to run between the tackles.
Yeah.
But I don't look at this as necessarily I don't look at this necessarily as a must win. I think it's going to be interesting to see how well they got carved up. They got carved up by the Chargers. I mean, Quentin Johnston, who we all can agree on is a bust. He had his best game in the NFL. I mean, like, he had his best as a pro. He did. I mean, listen, this is. I think there was a lot of heat on the Chiefs defense, but I do think that it was more of a Justin Herbert show than anything. That was way more of a Justin Herbert show.
Yeah.
You're going against a Jalen Hurts offense. I'm very curious to see what the Eagles do. After that week one loss, that week one loss. No, actually, that week one.
They won.
Victory. Yeah,
Eagles won, dude.
Yeah, that week one victory
Yeah.
against Dallas. That was a bit of a concern. AJ Brown only got one target. There's a possible concern there. That Eagles offense did stall in the second half. We'll see what happens. Typically it's much easier for an offense to just be able to pick up where they left off the year prior. Much harder for on the defensive side of the ball. I don't know if this is necessarily I think we'll find out more about the Eagles in terms of what kind of team that they're going to be as opposed to Kansas City. I agree. I don't know if an 0-2 situation for Kansas City is that big of an issue. For the Eagles, it's more of if they drop this game, it's more of a concern of, is this really a team that's going to repeat? Because last year you had a certain identity of veterans, and now especially after that win against Dallas, there's more of we won partially because a guy had 3 drops. We had a bit of an advantage with the lightning delay, so it becomes who really are we? We won that game because it was more in our favor. But what's going to happen on a week-to-week basis? Do I think that they're talking about Washington earlier? I don't think the Eagles are going to go 7-10. I think I'd be utterly shocked if they were to finish even close to 500. I think they're a 12-13 win team. But I'm looking at games like this, and I'm thinking to myself, we talk about Kansas City being they're 0-2 because we've been so used to the Chiefs being in the AFC Championship, dominating the division. This is but I think for a Super Bowl champion, this is more of an opportunity to be the Eagles are clearly at this point still to a degree a better roster.
Yeah.
They are favored going into, so the odds makers look at this game and they see that how is Kansas City, if they can't stop the Chargers offense, how are they going to stop the Eagles offense?
Yeah.
And so odds makers in Vegas see that this is more of a game for the Eagles than it is for the Chiefs. Because I think the Chiefs will be fine. Because some people even are talking about how it wouldn't surprise me if the Titans had the 7th seed, or they had the or if they were in the hunt late in December. If people think the Titans are going to be in the race in December, I think the Chiefs are going to be okay. Now, I disagree. I don't think that they will win the division this year. Although Denver did not play as well as we had all hoped. Denver didn't play as they had hoped. I still think they're a better team. The Chargers have definitely under Harbaugh, and usually that second year with Harbaugh is that time when they make the jump. It would not surprise me if the Chargers made the jump, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a Charger fan. So it would not surprise me. I don't know if this is because I think if Kansas City is 6-5 late in the middle of the year, 7-6, I think that they'll be okay. I mean, they showed 2 years ago that they can lose to the Raiders on Christmas Day, where a guy that now I probably won't even start another NFL game, probably only threw 8 passes. They can lose to a team on Christmas Day that they had no business losing to, and they can still go on to win the Super Bowl. So So I agree. To say all that, I agree. I don't know if this is a must win for Kansas City.
So these are the next couple of games for the Chiefs. You got the Giants, Ravens, Jaguars, then Lions. They can win 3 out of those 4.
Yeah.
I got them losing to Baltimore. So, and then you got the Raiders, Commanders, Bills. That's a loss. Broncos, Colts, Cowboys, Texans, Chargers again, Titans, Broncos, and the Raiders. So, tough schedule. It's like 50-50.
Yeah. Well, another thing we saw on Monday night. Listen, the first half and the second half of that game was radically different. Caleb Williams starting 6 for his first 6. He was dominant that first drive. Scripted plays. He could make all the throws. Now some of them were a bit of a check down Charlie type of situation. But under the strict tutelage of a Ben Johnson offense, Caleb Williams could do it. When they asked him outside of the scripted plays, yeah, it wasn't great. It wasn't great. And yeah, you could talk about, well, the kicker's got to kick that ball out of bounds because the Vikings returned it, and so it was about 2:02 left. Santos was supposed to kick it out of the end zone, and he couldn't do that. Yeah, we could talk about that, but Caleb Williams was outside of that first drive was pretty bad, and on that last drive. Cole Kmet made an insane one-handed catch. I have no idea how that didn't hit the ground.
Yep.
And the next throw, he has DJ Moore. Streaking down the sideline. He misses him.
Yep.
Those are the type of plays. I mean, outside of the scripted plays, is like there was never a moment in which anyone said, though, this guy isn't talented. That was never the issue. This guy was plenty talented.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. And this is we're talking about Kansas City being in a must-win situation. I mean, this is a must-win situation for Caleb Williams on Sunday, don't you think?
The thing with Caleb Williams is that you got Ben Johnson, yes, but it's a time to think of him as maybe like overrated. He's getting the weapons, right? He's got the weapons now. I just got to see him how he uses those weapons. If he can get the yardage that he needs to get, that Caleb Williams can run out of the pocket, get some yardage that way, lead the team in crucial situations because he's the quarterback. That's what he's got to do. So for me, I need to see more from Caleb Williams. I need to see more. It's only 1 week under Ben Johnson with this offense. I'm going to give it a couple more weeks, probably to like week 5, week 6. And then we'll see where Caleb Williams is at. So that's the way I look at it.
How long do you give him to?
Week 4, week 5.
Wow.
So here's the schedule for the Bears. So you got you lost to the Vikings. You got the Lions. I think they're going to lose to the Lions. You got the Cowboys. I can see them beating the Cowboys. The Raiders, I can see them losing to the Raiders. Commanders, I can see them beating the Commanders. Saints, if they lose to the Saints, they're in trouble. If they lose to the Saints, they are in trouble. So then the Ravens are losing that. Bengals are going to lose that. They'll beat the Giants. They'll beat the Vikings. They'll lose to the Steelers. They'll lose to the Eagles. They'll lose to the Packers. They'll beat the Browns. Lose to the Packers again. Lose to the Niners. And lose to the Lions. That's a negative record right there.
Yeah.
So actually, you might have to get these wins as quick as possible. Because as I said, the schedule gets tough. it gets really, really tough. And they had a really good offseason. Very, very good. So
Yeah.
this is definitely, I think now after looking at the schedule, it's a must win. It's a division rival against Detroit.
Yeah.
So that's going to be tough. And with a healthy Aiden Hutchinson, I said, no, I'm a diehard Michigan fan. They're done.
Yeah.
They're done.
That's yeah. I mean, like, I remember a couple weeks ago I was watching the Herd, and Colin Coward. They were putting up there like, uh, they're trying to see the Bears record from an optimistic standpoint, and they barely could put them at 9 wins.
Yeah.
Optimistic is 9 wins, but it's really looking like 8 or 9 wins. Now,
Yeah.
it's very this guy can be tough to evaluate, right? Because that first drive, of course, you script the first 15 to 20 plays, so you really can't get a good read on, I mean, these guys are pro athletes. I mean, a lot of these guys can make these throws, and a lot of these, some of these screen passes, these very easy throws. I mean, any of these guys in the league can make it. Caleb is a good athlete, is an NFL athlete. Now, I mean, it's the same thing as what it was in USC, and it's just too much of hero ball. It just got to that point. And I mean, I'm watching that game. Second half, he just doesn't look like he's got good touch on the ball. He looks like a good athlete. He's very gifted athletically, but he just doesn't have a good feel for the game at the NFL level. I think by Thanksgiving we'll know that for certain. And I don't blame you. We might even know that by week 5 that this guy is just not an NFL quarterback.
Right.
He's a great athlete, and he's just not what we really thought he was going to be or what he could be.
Yeah.
And so, and this is also a big game for Detroit this weekend too, as well. I mean, they don't want to start down 0-2, especially when you have Minnesota that's playing with a lot of confidence, and they could be 2-0 after this, and the Packers are, like we were talking, they're rolling right now. They don't want to fall behind 0-2. I think in terms of this is two teams with the same type of narrative, is that they're staring at the abyss, and either of these teams want to fall further. It just comes down to, who do I trust in this situation? And I would say I definitively trust Detroit in this matchup, which would put the Bears at 0-2, which would ask a lot of questions. Now, if Caleb Williams goes out there and throws 365 yards and 4 touchdowns, and they lose 38-35, okay, now we're talking maybe then that conversation goes more on Ben Johnson. Then that conversation goes on situational, and then that conversation goes on the Bears defense, and a lot of that goes back to the head coach.
Yep.
But I mean, if that doesn't happen, and Detroit wins 23-17, that conversation is still on Caleb Williams. And that's the thing with Ben Johnson, which I was saying. I was like, because I had never heard this guy talk in Detroit. He'd always seemed like the brainy coordinator, but you hear the kind of conversations he's having with Caleb Williams. You hear the kind of, taking the first team off of practice. I mean, this guy definitely has shown that he's a culture setter as well. And it's brutal in Chicago. It's similar to Philadelphia, the brutal media market out there. And I mean, Ben Johnson's really saved his ass, because you could see that you can see it work. But when you ask Caleb Williams to be the guy when late in the, that was an egregious miss at the end with DJ Moore. That was an egregious miss. because he had the guy, yeah, he bailed him out with a good one-hand catch. But you have DJ Moore streaking down the sideline, and that not only it cost them a score in the moment, but it cost them a couple of minutes. You know, like that cost them a couple of minutes. So, you know, if you're the difference between a Lamar and Josh Allen, Burrow, Mahomes, they'll throw interceptions. They'll throw interceptions, but late in the game when you need them to hit to come up big, they're usually there. They usually show up in those big moments, and you know, and it's just the reality that Chicago's never had that guy, and I just don't know if Caleb Williams is that guy.
Like I said, I need to see more with this offense and the weapons he's got around him, but I'm going to give him till week 4 or 5. This game is a must-win for Chicago against Detroit. It's going to be tough. Detroit is not injured anymore like they were last year around this time. So, they got a tough matchup, man. Very tough. It's going to be brutal. So, this may be one of the teams we're going to pick for our next topic.
Yeah. So, I want to go in. I want to go into the. I want to go into some of the week 2 matchups. There's obviously Kansas City, the Super Bowl rematch, Eagles, Chiefs. But I'm looking at Jaguars, Bengals this week. Cincinnati's defense bailed them out last week, and a game that was not really talked about. You talked about much, but Cincinnati's defense, what felt like for the first time in a while, really bailed them out. Cincinnati's offense, I mean, they were outgained by Cleveland. A couple of picks at the end really helped Cincinnati. And also you got Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence looked good. He looked much more comfortable than I've seen maybe in much more than a year. So I'm really looking forward to, is Jacksonville someone that can compete in that division? Going on the road against a Cincinnati team which has started slow. Though we are looking at their defense, and we will be looking at their defense the entire year. And the reason we don't talk about that Cleveland Cincinnati game, because we're looking at Cleveland and thinking they could be starting 0-5, 0-6 very easily, starting off with 0-6. It would not surprise anyone given where they're at. So I'm looking at Cincinnati and Jacksonville to see, you know, is Trevor Lawrence really going to be an improved player? Maybe the comeback player of the year under Liam Cohen. And also, is Cincinnati's defense really ready to make this jump? Are they at times going to maybe help a Joe Burrow like they did in week 1?
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at that Jacksonville Cincinnati matchup, and I'm curious about that. Mitch, who do you got this week in terms of a week 2 game? Who are you looking at for?
I'm not going to take Chicago Bears because that's the easy way out. That's the easy way out for me. I'm not going to say Eagles and Chiefs. So I am going to go with, I really don't want to go with that game as well. We got 2 Monday night. You know what? I know it's at 10 o'clock at night. I hate that time. I'm going to go with the Chargers and the Raiders. I'm going to go with that game at Raiders because that's going to be a really good game. The way Justin Herbert and the Chargers looked last week against the Chiefs and how the Raiders are going to look this season with Genti, Bowers, Geno Smith. They have Kenny Pickett now. The backup quarterback.
That's right.
So I'm going to go with that game, even though that's at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going with
yeah.
that one.
Yeah. It doesn't surprise me. Pete Carroll, when he took over Seattle, they had won the division at 7-9. Pete knows how to. Pete is a defensive coach, but he is a culture setter. And Geno Smith can win games. That Raiders team is very interesting. It would not surprise me if they're 5-9 late in the year, and it also would not surprise me if they're 8-6 late in the year, and they're possibly pushing for a wild card. They are definitely a team to really look out for. And I'm also looking out for this Chargers offense. I think this is going to be a big week potentially for Ladd McConkey. This is another good week possibly for the Chargers defense. The Chargers defensive line to tee off. I'm really looking closely at this matchup as well, because ultimately it's like, the Chargers sold out and gave it their best shot against the Chiefs. But this Raiders team, I mean, you picked them last week against New England. And we had a lot of high hopes about New England. And I didn't buy that last week that the Raiders would beat New England. So, I'm looking at this matchup to see, like, are the Raiders really the real? Are the Raiders really a team that could possibly compete for a wild card? Maybe a long shot they compete for this division. I'm not really so sure, but I'm curious. Not a big fan of the time either.
Yeah, I hate the time at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
I see them not in a wild card this year, maybe in a couple years down the road. They're in the beginning of the rebuild. This is what a rebuild looks like. Sixers, take notes. Take notes here.
Yeah, that's right.
It's going to be a fun game. I'll definitely be watching the highlights the next day.
That's right. Well, that's right. Well, that's all we have today. Mitch, great show today, and we'll be back. We'll be back next week.
Yes, sir. Make sure you guys hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. See you guys next week. Peace.
Yep.